Hello, and welcome to the Producers Club podcast here in New York City. I'm Tina Lizio, and today I have a special guest here with me at the studio, a beautiful soul that I met named Simone Swartz. We're going to have a brief conversation with Simone about a very important topic. She was coming out with a book called PTSD and What Helped Me. And she's going to talk with us because so many people have struggled and do struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder. She is a sexual assault victim from an experience in the military, and she is going to support a lot of our viewers today in a conversation about different ways to heal PTSD. So without further ado, Simone Swartz, welcome to the Producers Club podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tina, for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here in Manhattan, and I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being willing to be open and share part of your story, just giving us a little insight briefly. I can't wait for the book to come out when it does, because it will support a lot of individuals. So take us back. You entered into the military. You went through basic training.
Yes.
And then
when I was in advanced individual training, AIT, as it's called, I was only a new soldier for about a few months, and I ended up being violently assaulted by a fellow soldier. That assault led to a TBI, traumatic brain injury, because I fell on the floor or was pushed on the floor. And I also suffered PTSD from that event, but I didn't know it at the time. The sexual assault was known by a lot of people in the barracks. I ended up coming in late from the detail, and instead of asked, "Are you okay? Why are you bleeding?" I was by the command. I was made as a subject to be like, "Oh, you're not supposed to come in late."
So you're being penalized for walking in
Thank you.
late, regardless of the fact that you're walking in bleeding.
At that point, the ridicule and the judgment was very sexist in the military, and so I did not have a safe place to talk about what happened to me, and it ended up coming back on me, where I was a bad soldier. I shouldn't have, been out late, and so I did not have a comfortable place to even talk about it. And
so you were treated like you did something wrong, as if you deserved.
Correct. Yeah. And the sexist behavior and environment of the military, rape was very common, and it was always pinned back on the woman, that somehow she was promiscuous or somehow, wanted to be violently attacked. So it wasn't, it was almost a career ender if you did bring up a sexual assault. So I never brought it up, but yet I was in the barracks with my assailant, and that created, the most uncomfortable and demeaning emotions in myself. So I ended up turning to alcohol, and I ended up not wanting to even go to formation with my attacker. So my performance really took a nosedive in the military, and I ended up having an ultimatum by the command to go to AA or be discharged. I agreed to go to AA because, again, I thought, wow, I must be a horrible person drinking so much, when I was just trying to forget the memories of the assault and forget all the hazing and everything that went on from that night. So I ended up saying, okay, I'll go to AA because I want to stay in. I want this as a career. I wanted to be a lifer in the military. This was what I really wanted in my life. I didn't want to, be a bad soldier. But then what happened was the next day, the command served me with discharge paperwork. And, I was pretty much forced to sign it without an attorney, without knowing what I was signing. And I got a one-way ticket back to my hometown with no medical no education benefits, no benefits at all, because the way the discharge was written. And this discharge has been
A sort of failed performance.
it was a uncharacterized discharge, and the military actually has given this discharge to a lot of people who have been sexually assaulted, or even soldiers who came back from war who were showing signs of PTSD. Instead of getting the soldiers help, they would give them a discharge. So this was such a big issue that it was even brought to Congress that the discharge, the type of discharge, the uncharacterized discharge, and even labeling soldiers with a personality disorder when they were actually showing signs of PTSD and traumatic brain injury. This was happening very rampant in the military, and Congress had to step in and say, hey, these soldiers need support and mental health and physical health access, instead of being just discharged with no support. So that's what happened.
No therapy, support
That's
with therapy
correct. Or
financial
medical
support.
Exactly.
They were treat that.
Yeah, that's what happened to me, and that's what happened to thousands of other soldiers. Is that we were given the discharge, like you said, with no help. And so that was very, again, not only was the attack traumatic, but the way that I was separated from the military became a whole nother trauma that I had to deal with. And with not adequate resources, the way I dealt with it and the way many people deal with trauma is masking. So, turning to
Were you still drinking?
Yes. Well, so when you don't have access to proper medical care, you're going to take the medical care that's most readily available, which can be drugs and alcohol. That's going to be your form,
Your go-to
of something you can afford, something that makes you feel better. Maybe not in the long run, but that's going to be your way.
You don't need
It's not, the alcohol and drugs is not the problem. That's your solution to the problem. When you don't have
your coping mechanism.
Exactly. When you don't have a therapist to talk to, when you don't have a medical doctor that you can access to help you, with other medications, legal medications.
How to deal with the root cause, which is the PTSD.
Exactly. It's and that's why I advocate for therapy so much, is because really, therapy is going to be your bread and butter of recovery.
When you say therapy, are we talking about talk therapy, other types of therapy? What are you referring to specifically?
So I believe that traditional talk therapy, when you find the right therapist that works for you and that's aware of your circumstances and your life perspective and maybe ethnical perspectives, that the talk therapy is the first go-to. Now, is it the only thing you should go to? No, there's many other different healing modalities that once you've been able to talk about what happened to you, then you can branch out and use other forms of therapy or go to holistic forms. But you do need to be able to talk about what happened to you and process that in a setting with another person.
Why do you think most people, is it a financial, they don't have the health insurance, or they don't want to spend the money out of pocket? What is the reason why people don't? They think there's a stigma if they go to therapy?
Yeah, I think it's
all
both
of the
both
above.
of those reasons. Yeah, they're ashamed that somehow
they need therapy, like it's a bad thing instead of actually a great solution and support.
Exactly. I think that healthy people go to therapy. It's the unhealthy people that are not dealing with their trauma and not getting therapy. Even if you haven't had big traumas that have happened to you, therapy and talking about your life and finding
Oh, absolutely.
that's
I have a
healthy.
therapist that I've seen on and off for 13 years with no
Exactly.
particular regularity, but great support system. Someone who's on
Exactly.
the outside of your world, your personal, professional world, that's also,
Yes.
has the academia, the background to support.
Yes.
Also.
It keeps you healthy, just like going to regular exercise, going to the gym regularly.
Yes.
You've got to keep your mind healthy. And especially for people who've experienced trauma, they're really going to want to see a licensed therapist, on a regular basis. But for me, I dealt with undiagnosed PTSD for 10 years. So I was, again, dealing with it my own ways.
Which was?
Which was avoidant behavior, and actually adrenaline-seeking behavior. So sometimes I would withdraw and not go and do things, in society, be real withdrawn. But then there would be also times that I would say, oh, I want to be normal. I don't know what normal is, but I'm going to go out and just do the wildest and crazy things, thinking that, okay, this is what...
To make you feel alive, to feel.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I can handle this. I don't know why I'm scared, going out in public, but I'm going to just go out. And then you end up really doing things that put you in harm, when you're overcompensating from having that PTSD shell around you. So there was no real balance. I quit drinking, and then I started to see, there's a lot of issues even without the drinking, right? Because it was going back to that root cause that, okay, my assault, I'm trying to forget. I'm trying to forget everything about that and the trauma around that. So I really had to look at myself and my life and evaluate and see what what needs to be fixed here. Why am I not being where I want to be in life? So once I was diagnosed with PTSD, it was a real light bulb moment, because from what I had heard, you can only get PTSD from combat. And that was what...
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I wanted to let you, finish what you were saying. And this is so important, because PTSD doesn't come in just one form. You can have PTSD in toxic relationships, marriages. A lot of codependencies create, a lot of trauma. And but in this case, even within the military, there's a distinction from the PTSD that comes from seeing violence and the casualties of war. There's something else here, is the sexual assault. It happened to be in the context of you being in the military. Yes. And how it was handled. That's really unfortunate. That just sort of added to it and compounded it.
That's right.
But the sexual assault is unfortunately all too common.
Yes.
And it's not just, women that are assaulted, primary in that sort of male-female, role. Many men get assaulted in different ways, sexually assaulted as well.
That's right.
But in this case, with you being assaulted, what did you make that mean about you?
Well, before I went to therapy and found healthy ways to evaluate the trauma, I really hated myself. I did not realize that that the assault wasn't my fault. Because of the sexism and the patriarchal way of thinking that the military has, and that was ingrained on me. I really became self-loathing, and I didn't have a healthy way to look at the trauma. So
like in some way you deserved it, like you brought it on, and that's...
Yes, and that, you hear the survivor shaming. Oh, why didn't you say no? Why didn't you fight back? Well, it's the way I describe the so-called fight or flight. I like to say first that it's fawn, freeze, fight, or flight. That you're not going to just go to fighting. That's not probably 99% not the safe solution to get yourself out of an unsafe situation. It's
Yes.
going to be fawning and taking to your attacker if they're bigger, or if you're in a situation where they could really hurt you. You're not going to try to fight back. You're not going to try to scream. You freeze. That is a more common go-to scenario for the humans when they're being in an unsafe situation, is to freeze or fawn. The last would be to fight back, or to like I said, to fight back and to scream and yell.
Depends on your environment. Again,
Correct.
What the circumstances.
Yes, but there's no shame, because I am here today speaking, so I made the right decision. I didn't die by the grace of God, but I did what I needed to do to survive. So that, it was showing me that you did everything you could in that moment. There's no shame, and
Absolutely.
that if I did have the right medical care and I did have the space to openly talk about, well, what happened that night, then I wouldn't have acquired all the PTSD symptoms. I would have been able to talk about it healthily and got the healing right away, and I wouldn't have had to deal with 10 years of trying to forget and trying to ignore what happened. So PTSD is treatable, and it is preventable if there's an open space to talk about different traumas and different things that have happened, so you can cognitively discuss it and process it correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so post-event, traumatic event,
Yes.
there's a self-loathing in what you
Yes.
make it mean. And then as a result, it leads to coping mechanisms, drinking in
Yes.
particular, in this case, and thinking that and using that to numb, forget, escape
Yes.
the negative feelings that you have.
Yes.
This is so common. So also, and you said by the grace of God, and this is where we look to our faith sometimes, and say,
Yes.
what supported you in realizing, okay, the alcohol is just treating the symptom and not the root cause. You did go to the therapy, which is so important for viewers to see. There is no shame in going to therapy.
That's right.
It's supportive, and there are different. Are there specifically for women? Are there places that women who've been sexually assaulted can go in particular to find support groups for this? Is there like a support group for, I know
there
you
are.
also had, you had a nonprofit where you were also getting dogs for the survivors of sexual assault, which is so
Yes.
beautiful, because animals also, like therapy, are a beautiful form of therapy.
Exactly.
And healing.
Service dogs can be just another modality that you can use, on top of your talk therapy, traditional therapy. There's service dogs. There's all kinds of holistic health things you can use. Body work. There's a lot of body work you can use to move through trauma.
You are a study of Reiki.
Yes, yeah, I'm
Right?
a Reiki practitioner, and I also have my massage therapy degree, so I did do that, which was really helpful.
Just so interesting. So you
Yes.
went on to learn to take it inspired you. So your book
Yes.
is PTSD and What Helped Me. And I
Yes.
would say PTSD and how it helped me, as you are now looking to be in
right.
service to others. So you studied the Reiki and the moving that energy and energetic blocks,
Yes.
right? And massage therapy. You're working on other people to help them release
Yes.
the pain from their body. We hold our issues in our tissues. So
I love that.
I'm a big yogi. I'm a big yogi. And so for one
Yes.
form of exercise that I believe is so helpful and healing and powerful is yoga at all ages. It's
Yes.
that breath with movement meditation that's very supportive.
Yes,
and
I
know
write about
this
that as well.
supported the wounded warriors, vets, and it supported also a lot of vets taking yoga practice,
That's
from
right.
PTSD, and
Yes.
just women just being connected to your body and what you are feeling in there inside.
That's right.
So that's really beautiful. Everything
Yes.
from raising money to give animals to victims, to putting the word out there, and a guide for individuals with your book that's coming, and being a Reiki practitioner and massage therapist and all of that. And I imagine that these are things that supported you.
Yes.
So all of these things helped you heal your mind, your body, your spirit.
Yes,
The
it's-
mental, the physical, the emotional.
Totally.
It's a spiritual, journey.
Yes.
We're all on a spiritual journey, right?
Yes, I dealt with the undiagnosed PTSD for 10 years, and then I started my 10-year journey of healing and recovery. And yeah, these were all things that helped me. And it took me 10 years to find, where I'm at a place with my symptoms that are manageable and I feel really good. But that's what drove me to write this book, is that there's no need for it to take that long for your healing and recovery. There is no set timeline, but to have a resource that lists everything step by step and that has everything, okay, I'd like to try this and that, it wasn't as readily available even today as it should be. And so that's why, God put it on my heart to document my journey and write down all the latest and every
To shorten the
form.
gap for individuals to first
Exactly.
identify there is no shame,
Yes.
to take action, to be inspired to take action,
Yes.
and advocate for yourself,
Yes.
and how to
Take your healing into your own hands.
yes.
Yeah,
Because literally into your own hands. You
Right.
did. You took your healing into your own hands.
Right,
So the
and-
hands that were on you, you then went through the training so that you could, have them on others and support them.
Yeah.
So that is so beautiful. And so once the book is out, I know that there will be a part 2. And so
Well, I have
see-
a workbook as well that's going to accompany the book. So if people like to journal, it's going to go through each chapter.
writing is so cathartic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the book has just been, again, like you're saying, the PTSD has helped create who I am today. So no matter what trauma you've been through, you can have hope and healing on the other side. You don't have to live in PTSD. If you've been diagnosed with it, it doesn't have to define who you are. You can be a survivor instead of a victim. And that's what God has given me through my trauma is, I have been able to be in a more powerful survivor role now. That
Not a victim to the circumstance, that God
Correct.
this has happened for you for a higher purpose.
Correct.
And to work through. It's not something that happened to you.
Yes.
There was an event, but this has happened for you on your journey. And so there is
Yes.
a divine plan. At least I believe that there is. I'd like to believe that there is.
I believe that too.
Yes.
Definitely.
So thank you.
So-
Thank you so much for joining me here today, Simone.
Thank you for
And
having me, Tina.
I look forward to reading the book when it comes out.
Thank
and
you.
The workbook is an added bonus. So thank you.
Yes. All right.
And stay tuned from New York City. Signing off, the Producers Club podcast.
Thank you.